Hey everyone, welcome back to Quick Shifts. My name is Jason, and today we're going on another road trip in the Tesla Plaid. So hop along with us. This time it's colder outside. We're starting down in South Carolina, and we're going to head up to Twinsburg, Ohio. I'm on a trip to go see my family again, and we're going to be driving in the cold, and it's going to be snowy and coldy up there with them. So we're going to have a lot of fun doing this trip. We're going to see how different this is on this trip versus the last trip where it was much warmer outside. We'll see what impact that has on the battery. We'll see what impact that has on the drive, any impact on the suspension or anything like that. We're going to take you guys along for the ride and see how this Tesla Model S Plaid does. Again, this is a 2023 Model S Plaid. It's faster than heck, it's comfortable, and we got a little bit of that free self-driving supervised trial again. So we're going to go ahead and give that a whirl as well. So stick along with me as we take this Plaid on for another long distance road trip. All right guys, so before we get started on this road trip, we're still sitting here in the garage. I want to show you, we just have the recent updates. So we've got version 12.5.6.3 on the FSD supervised, and we have the actual smart summon in here. So we're going to go ahead and go into trips, and we're going to reset all my trips here. Well, reset trip A, reset current drive, and I'm going to go ahead and reset trip B for the overall. So we're totally zeroed out. We're starting at 7,559 miles, and we'll see what our averages are at the first stop here when we get to that location. It looks like our first stop will be Wytheville, VA. So we're going to go ahead and head on our way. We'll get there with 8%, and we'll have to charge for 25 minutes. And so the trip begins. All right, so we've been on the trip for quite a while now. We're on 77 North. We're coming up on our first EV supercharged session for today. And as you can see, it's starting to precondition here. So that's cool that it's preconditioning the battery. This will be a 250 watt capable charging supercharger session here at the Tesla superchargers, and you guys can see how we're doing here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up our consumption so you guys can see how we're doing on the consumption. Pretty good. I've been in full self-driving just about the whole trip, letting it do its thing, and it's been pretty flawless. You know, this could have went further. It was actually trying to go up to the next supercharger up there, but my bladder wasn't going to make it. So we got to pull in here, take care of business, and then we'll get back on up until Ripley for the second and final supercharged session of this trip. All right, so we're coming up on our exit now for the first supercharger at Mount Airy. We'll pull off here and get the numbers.
Now turn right onto Graceland Lane. Now your destination is on the right.
Now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and plug in. And before we do that though, let's check out these stats. So you can see what we consumed here. Not too bad for letting it basically full self-driving the whole way. And we'll go ahead and click on trips. And we can see we averaged just over 300 watts per mile. And I'm happy with that. We made good time. Now I'm not trying to race this. I'm just trying to road trip it and see how it does. So not racing for efficiency or any of that stuff. Just an average road trip up to Ohio. All right, let's see how this ramps up. And And we can see it's saying that we have 30 minutes to go here. And we're up past 150 kilowatts per hour already. Already gaining mileage. So we'll see how this goes. All right, we got the okay to proceed that we have enough charge. As you can see on the dash, it's still continuing to charge, but we're going to go unplug it and get back on our way. All right, at our second and final supercharger, pulling off at the Ripley exit 138. So we'll check our stats as soon as we pull in. We only have 52 miles left on our range, so we did pretty good on consuming. Obviously, started driving a little bit faster at the end there, and that reflects it in the chart. And we can see our trip average a little bit higher than last time, 329 watts per mile. But still not shabby. I'm not upset about that. So let's go ahead and plug this in and see how long it's going to take to charge back up. All right, so we got her plugged in, and it's going to take 30 minutes before we can continue on the trip. It's already ramping up, 160 kilowatts and growing. And we can see our charging status right there. So we'll go ahead and let this charge, and I'm going to go get a bite to eat. All right, so we're topped off enough to get back on the road again. We have another 343 miles of range back in the battery. We're going to go ahead and get back on here and finish the rest of our drive, and we should get there with just 14% of battery left. So that's plenty for us to get there and have some extra in case we need it. All right, guys, so I made it to the destination, and I did it with 8% battery, and that's the message you get when you do that. So 8% battery basically accounts to 31 miles in this, but here I am safe and sound, and go ahead and click OK on this. Check out our stats on here. We were pushing it to get here, so we're in the orange the whole way. But made some good time, good numbers. We'll check the trips. And there are our stats for the trip. And I'm going to go in and we'll check back in the morning and summarize the trip. All right, so on our trip up here, we totaled just roughly 635 miles on that trip. Probably about 30 miles of that was a bit of driving around while I was up here. And so there was one trip that I took while here with visiting my parents that I have to account for in these numbers, but that was a relatively short trip, and it was a freeway trip, so it kind of combines in with these numbers. So this isn't a perfect test, but this gives you a sense and idea of what it took. We had 2 stops to get up here. I stopped and charged for 30 minutes at both of those stops, and we consumed a total of 210 kilowatt hours for all of that charging. We averaged about 330 watt hours per mile for the entire trip. And now I'm going to go ahead and reset the trip A, and now we're starting our trip home, and we'll see what our numbers are comparatively on the trip home for the trip A, the second half of the return trip back to South Carolina. So let's go ahead and start that. Once again, I'll show you guys over here. We're starting with a full 100% charge on the battery, and you guys can see the screen here. We're going to go ahead and get going. Just normal trip. I'm not doing anything special. I'm not trying to do any hypermiling. I'm just driving home back to South Carolina. Let's see what our efficiency is and see how many. We're going to stop probably 2 times again, but we'll see how the trip goes returning back to South Carolina. All right, so we made it to our first supercharging station here with 26 miles left of range. So we're in Marmot, West Virginia, and we're going to go ahead and charge for 25 minutes here. Bring up this chart. I know it's hard to see with all this reflection. I apologize for that. But we got some pretty good range on this. And I'm going to pull up trips, and so you guys can see where the trips ended up for this route. I forgot to reset the trip, so it's a little off there, but you can see it since last charge and current drive. So let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in and charging. We're back on the road again. We've got almost full charge. Well, 80% it looks like. But we're going to get back on the road to the next stop. Should be interesting. I picked up a screw in my tire. So we're going to see how that impacts the trip. Right now it's not leaking any air. It's kind of on the side. I'll show a picture of that. Kind of on the side of the tire. We'll reevaluate at the next charging station and see what I need to do. All right, guys. So we made it to Mount Ayr, North Carolina. And we made it with roughly 101 miles of range left. We're going to plug this in for about 20 minutes and then finish our route home and see where we end up. Here's our chart. You guys can pause it here if you want to look at that, but did a pretty efficient job here. And then we'll go over to trips. You can see we averaged 286 watt hours per mile. And we're doing a little bit better than we did on the way up there. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in. All right, all charged up enough to finish the last leg of the trip. So we're gonna go ahead and get back on the road. All right, guys, so we're back from that trip. Took a day here, get home, get situated. But to recap everything, as you guys can see, our trip A for the second half of the trip was roughly about 547 miles. I think I have another 20 miles on top of that or so for that leg of the trip. And we averaged 296 watt hours per mile. And so overall for our trip, we did a total of 1,235 miles. We used 388 kilowatts, and we averaged 314 watt hours per mile. Now, if you guys are taking that into consideration, I think the Tesla did really good. So I don't know how many people are viewing this have actually driven on 77 and driven that road to know that it goes through from Ohio through West Virginia, through North Carolina, and then we get into South Carolina here. But the portions that go through West Virginia and through Virginia and Ohio kind of smooths out, but it's very mountainous. A lot of mountain driving, a lot of curvy roads going up and down the mountains, and it puts a lot of work into these electric cars. So it's really a really good test of what it's like to drive these cars on a long road trip through mountainous terrain, as opposed to that flatlander driving that a lot of YouTube testers do out there, where they get the really, really good range because they're on flat level land for the most part. This is a real world test. This is real driving through mountainous terrain on 77 South, And I think it's a truer test of what the vehicles are really capable of and where the technology has gotten. And I think the Tesla did really well. The Model S Plaid, I'm really impressed with it, to the point where I stopped twice for 30 minutes. By the time I go in, go to the restroom, get a cup of coffee, stretch my legs a little bit, the car's all ready to go. It's waiting on me most of the time. So I know a lot of people say, well, I'll just fill up gas in 5 minutes. I agree with that. You can do that if you're in some kind of super crunch. But if you're just taking a real world road trip and you want to stretch your legs, because one way of looking at this, and I was talking with my uncle about this, is the amount of time you're in the car. So you fully charge this Tesla and it's going to go about 4 hours of driving. 4 hours of freeway driving before you need to charge it. Most of the time, I didn't last as long as the car lasted. So you got to take that into consideration. Sure, they can go lots of miles, but a human can't. You've got to go to the bathroom. You got to take care of things. So I'm just super impressed with this. You know, the technology has gotten to where it needs to be. Now we just need the prices to come down where they need to be, where these are more affordable. But I would recommend this car to anybody. I don't know why people don't talk about the Plaid, why people don't talk about the Model S in particular more, because this is a fantastic car. Sure, the 3 and the Y are more affordable, but this is such a better looking car. I get so many compliments on it. So many people pass me and say, you know, I don't even like Teslas, but I like that one. You know, I'm not sure what that means, but I'm happy about it because I did pay a lot of money for this Tesla. But I don't regret it at all. And you guys know I usually flip my cars pretty quickly. I think this one's going to be around for a little while because I like it that much. And sure, it's had a couple issues here and there, but nothing really to write home about. Nothing that concerns me. And I'll do a more thorough overview of the ownership for this car. It's coming up on 12 months here in another month. So I'll recap that for you guys. But as far as a road trip goes, this thing was great. Highly recommend it. Very satisfied with it. Did really well. And it's thumbs up, guys. I love this thing. And if you get a chance to drive one, I think you'll like it too. So thanks for checking in. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button down there at the bottom. Subscribe and share with your friends and family, anybody who's interested in knowing what it's really like to drive one of these cars through regular mountainous terrain and not just on flat, steady roads in the middle of nowhere that don't even turn. This is real world stuff here, guys. Thanks for watching. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate the views. Catch you guys later. Thanks.